Hey guys, it's Dr. LeGrand here. I just real quick want to actually share a Facebook Live video that I actually did with my patients and thought you guys would be interested. It's my personal story about IBS, and so here's the video. I'm going to talk about IBS and how to treat it, and I actually want to share my personal story when it came to IBS and dealing with irritable bowel syndrome. So it all really started for me back when I actually was starting school. Specifically actually starting college. I had a real hard time with college and school and academics. It would stress me out all the time, and especially right before an exam or while I was studying for a stressful exam, I would deal with the abdominal pain, cramping, diarrhea, even constipation going back and forth. And really that was just not a fun time for me, especially in the exam. Anytime I'd go into an exam, or right before I go in the exam, I would have severe diarrhea. And just not fun, especially when you're trying to concentrate on the exam. I had to deal with a lot of abdominal issues when it came to taking exam and studying for exams. And that's where it all kind of started for me. And then it progressed, it got worse. Actually, specifically when I was doing something for my church, doing a missionary work, I actually was, they first train you, and I was in a cafeteria, and there for about, I think it was 12 weeks, just eating cafeteria food. And it got worse. I got a lot of gas and bloating. In fact, I'd be really embarrassed when I would be sitting in a classroom with other friends and other people, and they can hear my gurgling sound across the room. And it was just really embarrassing, and I had no idea what was really going on at that time of why my stomach was acting up like this. And then it wasn't until I actually went to Russia, and that's where I went for my missionary work, is I went to Russia, and all my abdominal symptoms were gone. I didn't know why I was not getting any gassing and bloating, or really diarrhea issues, or constipation. And then when I came back to the US, they came back. And it wasn't until I realized that, it took me the longest time to really figure out why I was having these digestive complaints and irritable bowel syndrome. And then I went back to college, which just made the symptoms even worse because stress again, causing severe issues for me. And then I went to medical school, and that just made the problem even more worse. And it wasn't until I actually tried, as I was learning about irritable bowel syndrome, some other kind of treatments that you can use for us, trying to change my diet, trying to figure out what it could be, if it was food intolerance. I was trying to figure all these things, whether I was, maybe it was gluten, and so I got rid of gluten for a while. That really wasn't doing a whole lot for me, a little bit, but then I realized one thing that actually did really help me was certain foods that I combined. So for the longest time, I thought I was maybe allergic to oranges or apples because I seemed to kind of connect that the food problem had to do with actually the food that I was eating, and I thought it had to do with oranges and apples, or orange juice and apple juice. But then I remember one of my professors talked about basically really trying to avoid combining foods such as things that are sugary, such as fruits and sugar, with your proteins, with your meals, and separating that because it could really upset the stomach. So I stopped having orange juice with my breakfast, or apple juice with my lunch, or even having apples or oranges with any of my meals, and just eat it with a snack. And that alone really started settling my stomach down. But I would still get flare-ups, especially, the worst thing is when I would go running. I hated that. I would go running, and then I would have to kind of plan just in case if I would have a flare-up of explosive diarrhea as I would go for a run. I would have to make sure there was a bathroom on the way. And I hated that, and having to stress out about that every time I would go on for a run. And running was supposed to relax me, and usually it did, but there would be just times where I would have those episodes. So it wasn't until I actually started learning more about stress and anxiety, how to actually manage your stress. One thing that really kind of helped me was breathing techniques, especially before exams and while I was studying, is to try to just monitor my breath. And then I learned about biofeedback. Biofeedback is another great thing that can help for people who deal with IBS. And what that does is really just helps you see how stressed you're out, how much you're breathing, how fast you're breathing, how high your heart rate goes, and blood pressure, and other tensions that you have, other tension muscles that you have. This gives you feedback to be able to work on certain techniques, such as breathing techniques, to be able to calm your mind, calm your body, because a lot of IBS issues can be connected to the stress, as a lot of you guys might know who are suffering from IBS. But just those two things alone of trying to separate the fruits and sugars away from my main course meals, that helped. The other thing that also helped me was avoiding liquids away from my main course meals, because I actually had the opportunity in medical school to actually test my hydrochloric acid, my stomach acid. And what they do is you actually have to swallow a pill that's on a string. It's kind of weird, but I was able to do that. And then you take a series of different acid and alkaline drinks to kind of see your levels. And what I found was that my pH, or not my pH, but my stomach acid was really not optimal. And I couldn't consume lots of foods at once. It was better for me to eat smaller course meals. So I worked on that more, so actually eating more smaller course meals, and that really helped with my acid reflux and the irritable bowel syndromes that I would have during that time. And so that was really helpful, and that could be sometimes for people issues they just don't have enough acid. And what I typically tell my patients, and actually has helped even for me included, is taking something like hydrochloric acid if you do tend to have low acidity in your stomach. And that can help for both acid reflux and irritable bowel syndrome. Now, however, for people who are on the other spectrum, where they are actually already more acidic to begin with, then the treatment would be a little different. It would actually looking at more alkalizing foods, make sure doing a lot of veggie juicing, and even incorporating something like magnesium oxide, which is more of an alkalizer, versus like magnesium citrate, which is more acidifier. So really you have to kind of know what your pH is at, and that's something we do here at Nature's Health Clinic, to check people's pH to kind of help balance that, so to help alleviate from their symptoms. But you know, as I finally got out of medical school, of course the stress kind of reduced down. And really, I've been able to help manage the IBS symptoms more that way. Now, of course, there is flare-ups. I mean, obviously, starting a business, starting a clinic, there's still, life goes on. But I've been able to manage it more by really working on those breathing techniques, trying to separate the fruits and the juices away from my main course meals and any kind of liquids. That could be really beneficial. The other thing I typically kind of do, especially if I'm starting to get my body's not quite breaking down the foods that I need to, I'll do some pancreatic enzymes, hydrochloric acid like I mentioned before. Those things have helped me personally, and actually has helped a lot of my patients out here at Nature's Health Clinic. Hope you guys liked that video. I just wanted to share that, my own personal story with IBS. I know it could be a real big problem for a lot of people, and I hope you guys can maybe implement that for yourself. And as always, if you guys like this video, give us a big thumbs up, share with your family and friends, especially for people who are dealing with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or any kind of abdominal issues that they might have. Go ahead and share this with your family and loved ones. And then go ahead, and if you have IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, go ahead and say yes if you do, no if you don't, or if you know somebody. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We bring health tip videos, other fasting videos, and you can go ahead and subscribe over here. And then I'll leave some other links below of other videos that you guys can check out if you haven't watched them already. Until next time, thank you for watching. Dr. LeGrand out. Thanks. Bye.